The siren chirped once, sharp, performative, before the cruiser nosed against the curb on Juniper Street. The heat hung off the Atlanta asphalt like a curtain. Maya Carter had just stepped out of Forge and Flow, the small brick gym where she taught a community women's self-defense class on Saturdays. Gloves still peeped from the top of her tote. She checked her watch, then the cruiser's mirror. 2 officers, one older, jaw set, sunglasses swallowing his eyes. The other younger, hands hovering at uncertain parade rest. "Ma'am," the older one called as he climbed out, voice already carrying the weight of a verdict. "You matched a description. Backpack, black hoodie, gray leggings. I'm going to need you to answer a few questions." Maya set her tote down and eased her hoodie open so he could see the bright yellow instructor tee beneath. "Happy to talk, officer," she said evenly. "What's the description say beyond black woman in workout clothes? Because that's half this block." His mouth tilted in a smile that wasn't one. "Attitude's not going to help you. Hands where I can see them." She lifted her palms to shoulder height, fingers loose, the exact same non-threatening posture she coached her students to use. A bus hissed to a stop behind her. 3 people on the sidewalk slowed, sensing that electric change in the air when a conversation begins to tilt. The younger cop, nameplate Ruiz, hovered 2 steps back, eyes flicking between Maya and her training officer. The older one closed the space like he owned it. "What's in the bag?" "Gloves, wraps, a banana that's seen better days." Maya kept her tone dry to keep her pulse steady. "You can look, and I'd love to know what I was actually stopped for." His nostrils flared. "You want to be difficult?" He leaned in, voice low but loud enough for the sidewalk to hear. "People like you show out until it matters. Under pressure? You're weak." A couple on scooters stopped outright. Someone raised a phone. The word hit like a gavel, as if he'd been waiting to say it to someone all day. Maya felt the old anger rise, the familiar coil in her ribs, but she did what she'd taught 100 women to do. Breathe, see, choose. "Officer," she said, calm cutting through the heat, "I'm cooperating. If you have probable cause, say it. If not, please step back." He didn't. He reached. Not for a weapon, but for her wrist. That casual grabbing people think they're allowed. Fingers closing over tendons like he was relocating furniture. In the instant the grip landed, the street sharpened into frames. The angle of his feet, heels close, weight forward, the tilt of his elbow locked, the way his shoulder rolled, too much. Somewhere, a MARTA train wailed. Maya's body moved the way a river nosed downhill. 2 hands on his wrist, not yanked, not twisted, just framed. She stepped off the line, her left foot whispering past his toe, hips turning. His momentum did the rest. It wasn't dramatic, not a movie throw, just a clean Osoto Gari foot reap married to a shoulder check and a controlled descent. The sidewalk thunked once. The officer hit, breath leaving him in a shocked huh that sounded more human than anything he'd said so far. Maya didn't stand over him. She didn't raise her voice. She let go, stepped back, and lifted her open palms again, higher this time, the way she taught. "Show you want out, not in." Her lungs felt too big for her chest. "Sir," she said, steady, "do not put your hands on me again." The world snapped back. The younger officer, Ruiz, flinched forward a half step, hand up, then froze, torn between training, hierarchy, and the fact that a dozen phones were pointed at all of them now. "Sarge?" she blurted, eyes wide. The older cop, Kincaid, the name finally read under the scuffed sunglasses, rolled to a knee, face purpling. He looked less hurt than humiliated. A man whose entire understanding of gravity had just been contradicted. "She assaulted an officer," he barked, the words automatic. From the benches outside Copper Cup, a barista with a milk pitcher still in her hand called back, "We all saw you grab her." Another voice, "Body cam, right? You got that?" The phones shifted to frame his chest. His camera's tiny eyes stared back dark and unblinking. Maya pulled her own phone out in slow motion, every muscle narrating non-threat. She thumbed 911 and put it on speaker. "I'm reporting an assault by an officer and requesting a supervisor," she said, voice pitched to Carrie. "Location Juniper and 8th, outside Forge and Flow. Name is Maya Carter. I am standing still with my hands visible." Kincaid surged to his feet, rage burning off him like heat mirage. "Turn that off," he snapped at Ruiz. "This is a safety situation." Ruiz startled. "Sir, policy says you back me," he hissed. The dispatcher's voice came tinny. "Ma'am, an on-duty supervisor is en route. Do not hang up." On the sidewalk, a rideshare driver, Darius on the app sticker, lifted his phone higher. "Tell. We're all still rolling," he said quietly. Maya kept her palms up. She could feel the bag strap digging into her shoulder, the banana headline she'd joked about earlier now absurdly real in her mind. She felt the tremble her students always confessed to after their first real boundary held. She made her breath bigger than the fear. In, out. Neutral voice. "Officer Kincaid," she said, using the name on his chest, gifting him back his job in case he wanted to pick it up. "I don't want any trouble. You grabbed me. I prevented you from hurting me. I'm not resisting. I'm standing still and I'm waiting for your supervisor." He took a step, then checked himself. Rage and calculation warring behind mirrored lenses. The crowd's silence had a shape now. Not chaotic, not cruel, deciding. Ruiz glanced at the dead body cam, then at the dozen lenses around them, then at Maya's open hands and the clean geometry of what they'd all just seen. Her jaw worked. A siren wailed closer, the long not short of a command unit. Kincaid straightened his collar like a boxer between rounds. "You're going to regret putting your hands on me," he muttered, not quite quiet enough. Maya's pulse steadied, not because she felt safe, she didn't, but because something had shifted that wasn't just balance and gravity. A woman at the coffee shop door, arms folded, apron dusted with cinnamon, spoke for the sidewalk. "She didn't put her hands on you. She put your hands off her." The command SUV slid to the curb. Doors popped. A captain stepped out, gray at the temples, gaze sweeping the scene with a veteran's fatigue. He clocked the phones, the officer, the woman with her hands up, the body cam with its blank, unblinking eye. "Who called for a supervisor?" he asked, voice even. "I did," Maya said without dropping her palms. "My name is Maya Carter. I'm the one being detained." Kincaid began his script. Subject matched a description, refused. "She complied," Ruiz blurted, surprising herself, eyes still pinned on the dead camera. "Sir, his body cam wasn't powered on, and he made contact first." Kincaid pivoted, betrayal raw on his face. The captain's eyes narrowed by a millimeter. The sidewalk held its breath, a dozen phones drinking everything. Maya exhaled once, cool and slow. In the glass of the coffee shop, she could see her own reflection. Small, palms up, chin level, hair escaping its tie, 100 Saturday classes behind her, 100 names of women who'd walked in thinking weak meant true and walked out knowing it meant tested. Seconds ago, he'd called her that word like a verdict. Seconds later, she'd reminded him that strength isn't loud. "Let's get everyone's statements," the captain said, voice suddenly all policy. "And we'll be reviewing all available footage." Kincaid swallowed. The crowd didn't. Somewhere, the milk steamer hissed like applause. Maya lowered her hands by an inch, just enough to roll her shoulders and feel the tremble ease. She wasn't naive. The fight wasn't over. It had just finally started where everyone could see it. The captain's presence cut through the tension like a blade. His uniform was neat, his badge gleaming, but his expression carried the weary calm of someone who had seen too many versions of this scene. He gestured with 2 fingers, directing Kincaid and Ruiz toward the curb. "Step over here, now!" Phones tracked them like spotlights. The crowd shifted closer, but stayed just far enough to keep the line between observer and participant. Maya lowered her hands slowly, her palms still outward, and said clearly to the captain, "Sir, I'm willing to give a statement, but I want it recorded, and I'd like a copy." The captain gave the faintest nod. "You'll have that opportunity, Ms. Carter. Stay where you are." Kincaid's face twisted. "She assaulted an officer. Put me on the ground." The captain cut him off. "Sergeant, your body cam?" Kincaid stiffened. It malfunctioned. The crowd erupted with laughter that wasn't kind. One man called, "Convenient!" Someone else shouted, "We got 5 angles right here!" Dozens of phones lifted higher. Ruiz shifted uncomfortably, sweat beading along her hairline. "Sir," she said softly, but loud enough for the microphones surrounding them. "His camera wasn't on from the start. Mine was." She tapped the device on her chest. Its tiny red light winked steady. Kincaid whipped his head toward her, betrayal raw in his eyes. "Ruiz, enough!" the captain snapped. His gaze lingered on her, then on the crowd, then on Maya, who stood steady despite the adrenaline buzzing in her veins. Inside, Maya's heart hammered. Every instinct screamed to run, to get away from the heat of Kincaid's fury and the weight of eyes watching. But she stayed rooted, just as she told her students. If you move, they own the frame. If you stand, you own the truth. Her phone still sat on speaker, the dispatcher's voice tinny. Units on scene confirm? Supervisor present? Yes, Maya answered, her tone clear. Supervisor present. I am safe for now, still requesting full report. The captain inclined his head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. The crowd thickened. A reporter from a local station, mic clipped to her blouse, appeared at the edge. Someone whispered, Channel 9's here. A ripple of energy spread. What began as a tense sidewalk incident was evolving into something larger. Kincaid felt it too. He jabbed a finger toward Maya. She resisted. I had lawful authority. She embarrassed me in front of a crowd. Maya interrupted, calm but cutting. I didn't embarrass you. You did that yourself when you grabbed me. Gasps rolled through the bystanders. Phones caught the words. The reporter's cameraman zoomed in. Ruiz swallowed hard, then spoke, her voice shaky but steady enough. Captain, I saw it. She had her hands visible. He initiated contact. She defended herself, then disengaged. She never struck to harm. Kincaid's jaw dropped. Ruiz, you... But the captain raised a hand. Sergeant Kincaid, stop talking. The sergeant's face flushed, veins standing at his temple. The captain turned back to Maya. Ms. Carter, you'll need to come down to the precinct to give your statement officially. Maya exhaled slowly. The crowd hushed to hear her response. I'll cooperate fully, she said, her tone measured. But I want a lawyer present, and I'm not going alone in a car with Sergeant Kincaid. Cheers erupted from the benches outside the coffee shop. That's right, someone called. Know your rights. The captain nodded once, sharply. Understood. You'll ride separately. Ruiz will escort. Kincaid sputtered. You're taking her side over mine? The captain's voice was steel. I'm taking policy over pride, and you are dismissed from this scene. Gasps again. Phones angled to capture Kincaid's stunned face. He looked like a man gutted in public. His lips pressed thin, his fists clenched, but he turned and stalked back toward the cruiser. Maya lowered her hands fully, flexing her fingers to hide the tremble. Ruiz approached cautiously, her eyes flicking with apology. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't sign up for this kind of thing. Maya studied her, then nodded. You did the right thing. That matters. Ruiz's eyes glistened for a second before she snapped back into formality. Ma'am, if you'll come with me, I'll get your statement taken safely. As they moved toward the captain's vehicle, the crowd broke into scattered applause. Phones tracked Maya's every step. She heard whispers in her wake. She handled herself better than him. She dropped him clean. That's what strength looks like. The word strength echoed in her chest, pushing back against the venom of weak. At the precinct, the hours stretched long. Maya sat in a neutral interview room. A lawyer from a community network seated at her side. Ruiz gave her account on record, voice steady now. The captain listened, face unreadable, jotting notes. By the end, the lawyer slid Maya's phone across the table. You've got 15 videos emailed to you already. Half the block sent them. Maya blinked. 15? People know what they saw. They're standing with you. When she finally stepped outside, the night air felt lighter, cooler. Malik, her younger brother, leaned against the hood of her car, scrolling through his phone with wide eyes. Sis, he said, holding it up, you're trending. Hashtag she stood strong. That clip of you flipping him? It's everywhere. Maya's stomach dropped, half dread, half disbelief. Everywhere? National feeds. People are calling you the woman who showed what real strength looks like. Malik's grin widened. And guess what word they're using? Respect. Maya sank onto the car's bumper, her chest heavy. She hadn't planned to be anyone's headline, but the word she'd carried, the word he'd thrown like a weapon, weak, was being rewritten in real time. And for the first time since the siren chirped, she felt steady again. By Sunday morning, Maya woke to a buzzing phone that hadn't stopped since dawn. Notifications piled in faster than she could swipe. Her brother Malik burst into her room, holding up his own phone like a trophy. You don't get it, he said, breathless with excitement. It's not just Atlanta, it's everywhere. Maya rubbed her eyes, still sore from the adrenaline crash. What's everywhere? This. Malik tapped the screen. A clip rolled, grainy but unmistakable. Officer Kincaid grabbing her wrist, her pivot and sweep, his body thudding against the sidewalk, the crowd gasping, her calm, open palms. The caption read, Cop calls black woman weak. Seconds later, she shows what strength really is. Beneath it, millions of views. Maya's stomach knotted. Millions? 3 platforms, 2 million each. Hashtags trending. Hashtag she stood strong. Respect not fear. Malik grinned. Sis, you're a symbol now. By mid-morning, news vans idled on the corner near Forge and Flow. Reporters adjusting microphones as they tried to film in front of the brick gym. Neighbors peered out windows, watching the circus gather. Maya slipped out the back door, hoodie pulled low, hoping to avoid the noise, but even the alley buzzed with whispers. 2 teenagers spotted her, eyes wide. That's her, one hissed. That's the lady from the video. They didn't run up, didn't demand a picture. They just lifted their fists in a quiet salute. Maya's throat tightened as she waved back. At the precinct, the fallout was immediate. Ruiz was pulled into closed-door meetings. Kincaid stormed through hallways, his temper loud enough to rattle doors. Officers muttered about policy, about optics, about body cams that suddenly mattered more than ever. The captain, gray at the temples, rubbed his brow as reporters crowded the steps. Statement pending, he told them, voice clipped. Internal Affairs is reviewing the footage. But the crowd wasn't satisfied. Signs appeared by afternoon. We saw the truth and, weak, she's stronger than you. By evening, Maya's name was on national broadcasts. A panel of commentators debated her flip frame by frame. She wasn't aggressive, one analyst said. That was pure defense, controlled technique. She embarrassed him, another countered. And in his world, that's unforgivable. A third voice cut in. It's not about embarrassment, it's about accountability. She showed what respect looks like under pressure. Clips of the crowd chanting, "Respect, respect," at the scene replayed on loop. Maya sat on her couch, Malik beside her, as the TV rolled through coverage. She hugged a pillow to her chest, the weight of it all pressing in. I didn't want this, she whispered. I just wanted to walk home from the gym. Malik's grin softened. You didn't choose it, but people needed it. You stood your ground, and now they're standing with you. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from a number she didn't recognize. This time, it wasn't a reporter. It was a mother from her class. Thank you. My daughter watched you and said, she's not weak, neither am I. Maya read it twice, her eyes stinging. Across town, Kincaid fumed in his living room, pacing as news anchors dissected his stumble. Every replay felt like a dagger. His phone buzzed nonstop with texts from colleagues, some sympathetic, others mocking. They're laughing at me, he snarled to no one. Over a kid's trick, she's not strong, she's reckless. But even as he said it, the video played again on his muted TV. Her clean pivot, his body hitting the ground, the crowd's gasp. No amount of denial could erase it. Monday brought more fire. National outlets ran interviews with martial arts experts who praised Maya's control. That was Judo 101, one black belt explained on camera. She didn't hurt him. She neutralized the grab and disengaged. That's the essence of self-defense. The narrative shifted further from incident to lesson. Headlines read, Martial artist teaches cop what respect means, and strength isn't noise, it's control. At Forge and Flow, class filled beyond capacity. Women lined the walls, waiting for space on the mats. Maya tried to focus on instruction, but everywhere she turned, students whispered encouragement. You showed us it works. You proved we can stand. My mom signed me up because of you. Maya led drills with steady hands, but inside she trembled. She hadn't meant to be a movement. She only wanted to defend herself. Yet here she was, her name tied to chants and hashtags across the country. That night, Malik scrolled through his phone with wide eyes. Sis, look, celebrities are posting about you. Athletes, actors, even senators. They're saying you're what strength looks like. Maya shook her head. I'm just a woman who didn't want to be grabbed. Malik smiled. And that's exactly why it matters. But even as the world celebrated, shadows gathered. In precinct hallways, officers muttered about betrayal. Kincaid rallied his loyalists, snarling about being set up and sold out. His pride had been shattered in public, and pride doesn't break quietly. Meanwhile, Maya sat by her window, the glow of her phone painting her face. Messages poured in, thanks, admiration, fear, even threats. She scrolled past them all, whispering to herself the truth she'd taught her students for years. Strength isn't loud. Strength is standing even when you're shaking. By Tuesday morning, Maya Carter's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Every scroll revealed another article, another clip, another stranger tagging her in a post about strength. On one feed, she was celebrated as a hero. On another, she was vilified for disrespecting law enforcement. Her brother Malik sat across from her at the kitchen table, spoon clinking against a cereal bowl. "You know you broke the internet, right?" he said, scrolling. "Half the country thinks you're Wonder Woman. The other half wants to argue about it." Maya rubbed her temples. "I didn't ask for any of this." "Nope," Malik said with a grin, "but you didn't back down either. That's why they're talking." At the precinct, the atmosphere was boiling. Sergeant Kincaid stormed through the halls, his boots hitting tile like drum beats. Officers who once smirked at his swagger now looked away as he passed. The viral clip had gutted his authority. In the break room, two younger cops whispered over coffee. "She put him down clean." "Man, his body cam was off. He's cooked." Kincaid slammed his fist on the counter. "Say it louder," he barked. The whispers stopped instantly. Ruiz, sitting at the corner table, sipped her drink and stayed quiet. She knew her testimony had already drawn a line she couldn't erase. The truth was on record, and with the public watching, it was out of Kincaid's control. But rage has a way of finding outlets, and his eyes found Ruiz across the room. "You betrayed your unit," he hissed. "You'll regret it." Meanwhile, Maya's gym was busier than ever. Forge and Flow overflowed with new faces, women, teenagers, even a few older men, drawn not by flyers but by the viral clip. "I want to learn what you did," one mother said, eyes wide. "Teach me how not to be weak," a teenager whispered. Maya tied back her hair, the weight of expectation pressing hard. She guided them through the basics, palms open, stance wide, voice steady. "Strength isn't about fighting," she told them. "It's about standing, about knowing your worth." But even as she spoke, she felt the tremor in her chest. She wasn't immune to fear. She was just refusing to show it. By afternoon, news vans idled outside the precinct. Reporters pressed microphones at the captain demanding answers. Will Sergeant Kincaid be disciplined? Why was his body cam off? What message does this send about accountability? The captain gave clipped responses. The incident is under review. Internal Affairs is investigating. We will release findings when appropriate. But the headlines wrote themselves. Cop under investigation after viral confrontation. Kincaid watched it all from his living room, jaw tight. Each replay of his fall was another knife. Each headline another wound. His phone buzzed with messages from friends, some supportive, others mocking. He hurled it onto the couch, muttering, "Weak? They think she's strong because she got lucky. I'll show them strong." He picked up a pen, scrawling notes on a pad. Plans, strategies, names. His pride wasn't just bruised, it was broken. And broken pride doesn't heal quietly. That evening, Malik dragged Maya to the corner store for snacks. As they walked past the newsstand, a headline blared her name. "Your front page," Malik teased, holding it up. Maya groaned. "Great, that's exactly what I wanted. More attention." A man in line overheard. "Hey, you're the one from the video, right? My daughter saw you. She signed up for karate yesterday." He tipped his cap. "Respect." Maya froze, warmth blooming in her chest. She managed a small smile. "Thank you." As they left, Malik elbowed her. "See? You're changing lives already." But Maya's mind flicked back to Kincaid's face, the fury in his eyes as he spat weak. She knew men like him didn't let humiliation fade. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She sat by her window, watching the street lamps flicker, scrolling through endless messages. Praise, pleas, threats. One email caught her breath. "You'll regret this." No name, no address, just those words. Her chest tightened. She closed her laptop, whispering to herself the mantra she drilled into her students. Inhale, exhale, own the ground you stand on. But in the dark, even mantras sounded thin. Across town, Ruiz sat in her apartment staring at her badge on the counter. She had spoken the truth, and now she was the target of Kincaid's simmering wrath. She picked up her phone, scrolling through the video again, the way Maya had moved, calm, controlled. Ruiz whispered, almost to herself, "That's what strength looks like." Her own hands trembled. But like Maya, she didn't look away. By Wednesday morning, the story had grown bigger than either of them. Talk shows debated it, activists quoted it, politicians weighed in. But beneath the noise, Maya felt the quiet truth. She had become a symbol, whether she wanted it or not. And symbols attract both hope and danger. By Thursday, Maya Carter could no longer ignore the pressure building around her. The gym's voicemail was full. Her inbox flooded, her phone vibrating with messages every few seconds. Some were thank yous, some were invitations for interviews, but too many carried the same edge. You'll pay for this. Stay in your lane. We know where you work. Malik tried to make light of it as he scrolled through the flood. Half the country wants to put you on a billboard, the other half wants to burn it down. That's when you know you're making waves. Maya shot him a look. This isn't funny, Malik. This isn't just noise, it's real people, with real anger. He softened. I know, but you didn't start this fire. You just stood your ground. Don't let the smoke choke you. At the precinct, Sergeant Kincaid sat in the corner of the break room, a storm brewing behind his eyes. The walls hummed with gossip, whispers of suspension, talk of demotion. His name had become shorthand for shame. Two younger officers leaned against the counter, speaking just loud enough for him to hear. Internal affairs is all over him. Should have kept that body cam on. Kincaid slammed his coffee down. You think this is funny? He snapped. The room went silent. Ruiz walked in, chin high despite the tension. She grabbed a bottle of water, her badge glinting under the fluorescent lights. Kincaid's glare followed her like a shadow. Enjoying the spotlight? He hissed. Ruiz didn't flinch. I told the truth. His jaw clenched. You ruined me. No, she said calmly. You did that yourself. She walked out, leaving his rage festering. Meanwhile, Forge and Flow was more crowded than ever. Women filled the mats, eager to learn from the woman who had become an accidental icon. Maya adjusted a student's stance, her voice steady despite the fatigue in her bones. Remember, she told them, strength isn't about overpowering. It's about staying calm when someone tries to shake you. A teenager raised her hand. Like you did on that video? Maya forced a small smile. Exactly like that. But inside, the weight of being the example pressed heavy. Every gaze on her felt like expectation. Every phone pointed at her felt like surveillance. That afternoon, Malik dragged her to the corner cafe for a break. As they waited for their drinks, a woman approached, her daughter tugging at her sleeve. Are you Maya? She asked, eyes wide. Maya nodded cautiously. The little girl blurted, You're the strongest person I've ever seen. Maya knelt, smiling softly. Strength isn't about fighting, sweetie. It's about standing up for yourself, even when you're scared. The mother's eyes glistened. Thank you. She needed to hear that. Maya's heart swelled. For a moment, the fear faded, replaced by something warmer, hope. But across town, Kincaid was sharpening his own narrative. In a dimly lit bar, he sat with a few loyalists, nursing a drink. His voice dripped venom. She humiliated me, made me a joke. If the department won't handle it, I will. One of the younger cops shifted uncomfortably. Careful, Sarge. Too many eyes on this. Kincaid's lips curled. Then I'll wait for the right moment, and when it comes, she won't see it coming. The men fell silent, unease settling over the table. By evening, the story had grown too big for local news. National anchors debated it nightly. Talk shows replayed the clip alongside hashtags. Some framed Maya as a hero, others as a problem. One commentator sneered, If every civilian thinks they can flip an officer, where does that leave law and order? Another shot back, If every officer thinks they can grab civilians without cause, where does that leave justice? The debate raged, but Maya stayed quiet. She sat on her couch, phone buzzing, Malik scrolling beside her. You've got senators tweeting about you, he said. Athletes, actors, everyone's choosing a side. Maya shook her head, exhaustion pulling at her. I didn't want sides, I just wanted respect. That night, another email landed in her inbox. No threats this time, just an image. Her photo, taken through the window of Forge and Flow, blurry but clear enough to chill her blood. She closed her laptop quickly, heart pounding. Malik noticed her trembling hands. What is it? Nothing, she lied, forcing her breath steady. But the truth burned in her chest. This wasn't just online anymore. Someone was watching. Across the city, Ruiz sat alone in her apartment, badge glinting on the table. She rewatched the viral clip, studying Maya's calm movements. She whispered to herself, That's strength. Then she glanced at her phone, where an anonymous message blinked. Watch your back, traitor. Her stomach sank. She knew exactly whose shadow lingered behind those words. By midnight, the city buzzed with two different rhythms, one of celebration, chanting Maya's name, and one of anger, plotting in silence. Maya lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her brother asleep in the next room. She whispered the mantra she gave her students. Inhale, exhale, own the ground you stand on. But for the first time, she wondered if the ground beneath her was about to shake harder than she ever imagined. Friday dawned heavy, the kind of morning where the air felt thick even before the sun rose. Maya Carter sat on the edge of her bed, lacing her sneakers for an early jog. She used to run for peace. Now she ran to burn off the tension buzzing through her chest. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another notification, another article, another message. She glanced at the screen, sighed, and left it behind. The streets felt safer than the headlines. But halfway down Juniper Street, she noticed a car creeping too slow behind her. Its headlights cut through the dawn, lingering longer than traffic should. Maya turned into the park, doubling her pace. When she glanced back, the car had turned the other way. She slowed, exhaled, told herself it was nothing, but her instincts whispered otherwise. At the precinct, Sergeant Kincaid slammed his locker shut hard enough to rattle the row. His name had been dragged through the mud all week. Headlines, talk shows, memes. Every time he checked his phone, there was another clip of him hitting the sidewalk, another joke at his expense. In the briefing room, younger officers muttered over coffee. He's done. IA's not going to let this slide. Should have just left her alone. Kincaid's jaw locked. Say it louder, he snapped. The room fell silent, all eyes darting away. Ruiz slipped in quietly, badge clipped neat, hair pulled back. She avoided his glare, but he didn't avoid hers. His voice dropped, venom soft but sharp. You'll regret crossing me. She met his eyes for the first time in days. No, Sergeant, I'll regret staying silent. She walked past him, but her pulse thundered. That afternoon, Forge and Flow overflowed again. Women lined the mats, drawn not by flyers but by the story that had gone viral. Maya adjusted their stances, correcting elbows, guiding breaths. Keep your center low, she instructed. It's not about strength, it's about balance. A teenager raised her hand. Like you did on the video? Maya forced a smile. Exactly like that. But inside, the weight pressed heavier. Every set of eyes on her felt like both admiration and expectation. She hadn't signed up to be a movement, she just wanted to defend herself. Yet here she was, teacher, fighter, symbol. Outside, reporters camped on the sidewalk, cameras aimed at the gym doors. When class ended, Maya slipped out the back, Malik at her side. You can't dodge them forever, he said, glancing over his shoulder at the crowd. I don't want fame, Maya muttered. I want peace. Malik grinned. Too late. Peace doesn't trend. Meanwhile, Kincaid sat in a dim corner of a bar, nursing a whiskey. Across the table, two loyalists leaned in. You've got to let this go, Sarge, one whispered. Too many eyes, too much heat. Kincaid shook his head, voice low. She humiliated me. Took my name, my badge, my respect. If the department won't fix it, I will. His hand clenched the glass so tight his knuckles whitened. She thinks she's strong. I'll show her weak. The others exchanged nervous glances but said nothing. They knew pride like his didn't heal quietly. By evening, Ruiz sat in her apartment staring at her badge on the counter. Anonymous messages kept pinging her phone. Traitor! Blue wall breaker. She shut it off, but the dread lingered. She replayed the viral clip again, watching Maya's calm, controlled movement. She whispered to herself, that's what strength looks like. For a moment, it gave her courage. But courage doesn't erase danger. That night, Maya sat by her window, scrolling through messages. Most were supportive. Some were angry. One stopped her cold, a photo of Forge and Flow, taken from across the street. The caption read, "We see you." Her chest tightened. She closed the laptop, pressing her palms together to steady her breath. Inhale, exhale. Own the ground you stand on. She repeated it like a shield. Malik noticed her trembling hands. What happened? Nothing, she lied, but her voice cracked. Malik's smile faded. He put a hand on her shoulder. Then we don't face it alone. Whatever's coming, we face it together. Across the city, Kincaid sat in his car outside his own house, staring at the dashboard. His career teetered on the edge. His pride lay shattered across the internet, and his fury had hardened into something dangerous. He whispered to himself, Saturday, she won't see it coming. The dashboard clock ticked. His fists tightened. Meanwhile, in homes across the country, Maya's name trended. Hashtags surged. Videos looped. People argued. People celebrated. But Maya sat in silence, staring at the dark street outside her window. She hadn't asked for this spotlight. She hadn't asked for this fight. Yet it had found her, and she knew the next move wouldn't just test her training. It would test everything she stood for. By Saturday morning, Maya Carter's neighborhood didn't feel the same. Cars she didn't recognize lingered longer than usual at the stop sign. People on the corner stared a moment too long before walking away. Malik noticed it first. "You see that sedan?" he asked, pulling the blinds halfway shut. "That's the third time it's circled the block." Maya tightened the laces of her sneakers, her voice steady but her pulse racing. "You're just paranoid." But deep down, she wasn't so sure. The anonymous threats in her inbox, the blurred photo of her gym, none of it had felt like idle talk. Someone was watching. At Forge and Flow, the mats filled quickly. Women and teens lined up, their GIs crisp, their eyes full of determination. Maya guided them through drills, her voice calm but firm. "Center low, palms open. Breathe before you move." A mother paused mid-drill. "Is it true you put that officer on the ground in one move?" Maya exhaled. "It wasn't about putting anyone down. It was about keeping myself safe, that's all." But the students weren't here for modesty. They were here because her story had given them permission to believe in themselves. That weight pressed on Maya's chest heavier than any strike. Meanwhile, in a precinct conference room, Ruiz sat stiffly across from internal affairs investigators. Her voice was steady as she described the moment Kincaid's hand closed around Maya's wrist. She complied. She had her hands visible. He initiated contact. She disengaged safely. One investigator scribbled notes. "And the body cam?" "His wasn't on," Ruiz said flatly. "Mine was." The questions dragged on, but Ruiz never wavered. Still, as she walked back through the hallways, eyes followed her like knives. Someone muttered "traitor" under their breath. She kept walking, but the word stuck like a thorn. Kincaid, meanwhile, sat in his cruiser outside a diner, a notebook open on his lap. Names, times, places. He scrawled furiously, muttering to himself, "They think she's strong. They think she beat me. I'll show them." His pride had curdled into obsession. Every plan he scribbled ended the same way. Silence her. One of his loyalists slid into the passenger seat. "Sarge, this is getting dangerous. Too many eyes. Cameras everywhere." Kincaid's eyes burned. "Then we wait for a blind spot." That evening, Maya and Malik stopped at the grocery store. As they walked the aisles, whispers followed them. "That's her. She's the one from the video. She's strong." A cashier, barely 19, leaned over the register. "Respect," she whispered, sliding Maya's change across the counter like it was sacred. Maya managed a small smile, but her stomach tightened. She hadn't wanted to be anyone's hero. She hadn't wanted her face on every screen. Yet everywhere she went, she was no longer just Maya. She was the woman who stood strong. Back at the gym, a knock rattled the back door. Malik frowned, stepping cautiously. "We're closed," he called. Silence. Then another knock. Maya grabbed her phone, recording instinctively. She edged closer, heart pounding. When Malik opened the door a crack, no one stood there. Just an envelope taped to the brick. He tore it down, slid the paper out. 4 words scrawled in heavy ink. "Stay quiet or else." Malik's face hardened. "It's him. It has to be." Maya exhaled slowly, pressing her palms together like she was back on the mat. "Then we document everything. We don't hide. We stand." Across town, Ruiz sat in her apartment, scrolling through messages from anonymous numbers. "Blue wall breaker. You'll regret this." She closed her phone and stared at the viral video playing on her TV, Maya's calm, controlled movement, her voice steady as she told Kincaid to let go. Ruiz whispered to herself, "She didn't break. Neither will I." But even as she said it, a chill crawled down her spine. By midnight, the city buzzed with 2 rhythms, chants of "respect, respect" at rallies outside the precinct, and the quieter, darker whispers of those who saw Maya not as a symbol of strength, but as a target. Maya sat by her window, Malik asleep in the next room, the envelope's threat folded on the table. She whispered her mantra, "Inhale, exhale, own the ground you stand on." But tonight, the ground felt less like a mat and more like a battlefield. And she knew. The next move was coming. Sunday morning sunlight poured through the blinds, but Maya Carter didn't feel its warmth. She sat at her kitchen table with a mug of untouched coffee, staring at the envelope Malik had found taped to the back door. The words, "Stay quiet or else," glared up at her, heavy as a stone. Malik paced the kitchen, phone in hand. We need to show this to the captain, or the press, or both. Maya shook her head slowly. If we run to the media every time, they'll say we're chasing attention. And if we only go to the department, it'll vanish in a file cabinet. Malik frowned. So what then? Pretend it's nothing? Maya met his eyes. No. We prepare. We stay visible. That's what keeps me safe. She didn't say out loud what her gut whispered. Kincaid won't stop until he has his revenge. At the precinct, Ruiz sat nervously in her cruiser, fingers tapping the steering wheel. She had tried to ignore the threats flooding her phone, tried to drown them out with routine patrols. But last night, one message had frozen her blood. She's next. And so are you if you talk again. Ruiz thought of Maya, the calm stance, the steady hands, the sweep that had flipped a man twice her size. She thought of the way the crowd had cheered respect, like it was a verdict. She picked up her phone, typed a message, deleted it, then typed again. Finally, she hit send. Be careful. He's planning something. Don't be alone. Maya read the text an hour later, sitting in the locker room at Forge and Flow between classes. Her stomach sank. She didn't need Ruiz to spell out who he was. Malik saw her face pale. What is it? She handed him the phone. His jaw clenched. I knew it. He's coming after you. Maya forced a breath in, then out. Good. Let him. I won't run. Malik shook his head. Sis, this isn't a sparring match. This is a man with power, friends, and nothing left to lose. But Maya's voice was calm, the same tone she used when coaching women on the mats. Fear is his weapon. If I let it control me, he's already won. That evening, Forge and Flow's front door rattled harder than usual. Malik opened it, and Ruiz stood there in plain clothes, her face pale but her jaw set. We shouldn't be seen talking, she said quickly, glancing up and down the street. But you need to know, he's not letting this go. He's been talking in the locker rooms, writing things down, calling people at odd hours. Maya nodded. I figured as much. Ruiz's eyes narrowed. You don't understand. He blames you for everything, his career, his reputation, his pride. And now he blames me too. That makes us targets. Malik folded his arms. So what do we do? Ruiz exhaled shakily. Stay visible. Keep crowds around. Document everything. And, she hesitated. Don't underestimate him. He's humiliated. Humiliated men are dangerous. Maya placed a steady hand on Ruiz's shoulder. Thank you for warning me. That took courage. Ruiz's eyes flickered with something like relief. Courage isn't not being scared. It's speaking anyway. I learned that from you. Later that night, Maya sat cross-legged on the floor of her room, the city sounds drifting through the window. She replayed the viral video on her phone, watching her own movements, the calm palms, the pivot, the sweep. She hadn't seen strength at the time. She'd only seen necessity. But now millions of people saw it as something larger. Malik leaned against the doorframe. What are you thinking? That this isn't about me anymore, she whispered. It's about everyone watching. If I fold, what does that say to the women I train? To Ruiz? To the kids who chant respect outside the precinct? Malik's eyes softened. Then you don't fold, but you don't stand alone either. Across town, Kincaid sat in his car in the precinct parking lot, scribbling in his notebook. His pen dug grooves into the paper, times, places, weaknesses. He muttered under his breath over and over, She made me weak. She made me weak. His phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Careful, too many cameras. Kincaid sneered. Let them watch. I'll remind them who's in charge. By midnight, Atlanta's streets buzzed with chants of protesters outside the precinct. Respect! Respect! They shouted, holding signs with Maya's name. The video looped on giant screens. Inside Forge and Flow, Maya stood at the window, watching the reflection of those words on the glass. She whispered to herself, Respect isn't shouted, it's earned. Her phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. This time, only 2 words. Tomorrow night. Her pulse spiked. She didn't know what was coming, but she knew one thing for certain. The fight was no longer on her terms. Monday morning dawned gray, heavy clouds pressing down on the city like a lid. Maya Carter laced her sneakers and stared at her reflection in the mirror. She didn't see a hero staring back, just a woman whose name had been dragged into every headline. Her chest tightened as she thought of the message. Tomorrow night. Downstairs, Malik scrolled furiously on his phone. Sis, look at this. There's a whole thread of people saying they're coming to the gym tonight just to make sure you're safe. Maya frowned. That's not protection. That's escalation. I don't want them putting themselves at risk. Malik lifted his eyes. And what about you? You keep telling your students that standing together is strength. Maybe it's time to believe it yourself. At Forge and Flow, the energy was different. The mats filled with more students than ever. Women, teens, even men who had never set foot in a dojo. Parents lined the walls, phones ready, eyes sharp. It felt less like a class and more like a guard detail. Maya adjusted a girl's stance, her hands steady even as her pulse raced. Keep your center low. Remember, the goal isn't to fight, it's to stay standing. The mother watching from the wall nodded firmly. That's what you've been doing all week. Maya smiled faintly, but inside, unease grew. She wasn't sure if she could keep standing if the storm truly broke. Meanwhile, at the precinct, Kincaid sat in his car, fingers drumming the steering wheel. His notebook lay open on the passenger seat, pages scribbled with angry lines. Times, addresses, habits. His pride had festered into obsession. One of his loyalists knocked on the window. Sarge, you gotta drop this. Everyone's watching. IA's breathing down your neck. Kincaid's glare cut like a blade. She made me weak, in front of everyone. You don't come back from that by staying quiet. The younger officer hesitated. If you do something stupid, you'll bury yourself. Kincaid leaned in, voice low, dangerous. Better buried than forgotten. Ruiz, across the hall, overheard fragments of Kincaid's muttering. She clenched her fists, debating whether to intervene, whether to risk more wrath. Finally, she stepped outside, pulled out her phone, and texted Maya again. Stay surrounded, he's not thinking straight. Minutes later, Maya read the message on the locker room bench. Malik leaned over her shoulder. Told you, he's coming. Maya closed her eyes, whispering the mantra she drilled into her students. Inhale, exhale, own the ground you stand on. When she opened them, her voice was steady. Then we'll be ready. That evening, Forge and Flow buzzed like a hive. The sidewalks outside the gym filled with supporters holding signs. Respect not fear, and we stand with Maya. Reporters gathered, cameras flashing. It felt like a protest and a rally all at once. Inside, Maya gathered her students. Listen to me, I don't know what's going to happen tonight. But remember, strength isn't loud, it's steady. Whatever comes, keep your composure. That's how we win. The students nodded, their faces a mix of fear and determination. Around 8 p.m., a black sedan slowed at the curb outside the gym. Malik spotted it through the blinds, heart pounding. It's him! The crowd murmured, phones lifting. The car idled, headlights glowing like eyes. Then, slowly, it pulled away. Maya's shoulders sagged with relief, but unease lingered. He was circling, testing, waiting for a blind spot. Across town, Kincaid parked in a dark alley, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles whitened. He could still hear the chants in his head. Respect, respect, as if they mocked him personally. His pride screamed for action, but every camera, every phone, every pair of eyes kept him trapped. He muttered to himself, I'll wait, but the moment she slips, she's mine. Back at the gym, Ruiz arrived in plain clothes, slipping quietly through the back door. Maya blinked in surprise. What are you doing here? Ruiz's voice was firm. Protecting you. And protecting the truth. She gestured at her phone. If he shows up, I'll record everything. He won't bury this, not with me here. Maya's chest tightened with gratitude. You don't have to. I do. Ruiz cut her off. Because silence is what got us here. I won't be silent again. By midnight, the gym emptied. Supporters drifted home. Students hugged Maya tight before leaving. Malik bolted the doors, but tension still clung to the air. Maya stood at the window, staring at the empty street. She whispered, It's not over. Malik put an arm around her shoulder. Then we keep standing, no matter what. Across the city, in the shadows of his car, Kincaid scribbled one final note in his book. Next move, tomorrow night. His pride wouldn't let go. And Maya knew, whether she wanted it or not, the showdown was coming. Tuesday arrived with the heaviness of a storm that hadn't yet broken. Maya Carter woke before dawn, her body buzzing with restless energy. She tied her hair back, threw on her gym hoodie, and sat at the kitchen table with Malik. Neither spoke at first. Finally, Malik broke the silence. That car last night? He was testing us. Seeing how close he can get, Maya stirred her tea. He's waiting for me to slip. Then don't, Malik said. Not once. By noon, Forge and Flow felt less like a gym and more like a fortress. Supporters gathered outside with posters. Parents dropped off their daughters for class, some lingering in the lobby, phones in hand. The air hummed with solidarity and unease in equal measure. Maya guided her students through drills, her voice calm but clipped. Balance, not force. Breath, not panic. Control, not chaos. She caught herself glancing at the front windows more than once. Every car that slowed made her heart tick faster. Every shadow looked heavier than it should. One student whispered, "Miss Maya, are we safe?" Maya crouched, meeting her eyes. "Yes, because we stand together. Remember that." Across town, Kincaid sat in his sedan, engine off, parked just far enough from the gym to watch without being noticed. His notebook lay on the passenger seat, pages scrawled with plans and timings. He muttered to himself, "Tonight, I'll remind them who's in charge." His phone buzzed. A message from a fellow officer. "Drop it, you're done, everyone's watching." Kincaid sneered, tossing the phone aside. Watching didn't matter. He'd been laughed at, mocked on screens across the country. Only action could silence the shame. At the precinct, Ruiz finished her shift, but instead of going home, she drove toward Forge and Flow. Her gut told her this was the night. She parked 2 blocks away, blending into the evening traffic, and texted Maya, "I'm nearby if you need me. Don't be alone." Maya read the message after class, her stomach nodding. She typed back, "Thank you. Stay safe too." By sunset, the sidewalks outside the gym filled again. Neighbors, students, reporters, all buzzing with anticipation. Signs waved. "Respect not fear, we stand with Maya." Malik leaned against the door, arms crossed. "Looks like the whole city's on your side now." Maya adjusted her hoodie. "Then we can't let them down." At 8 p.m., headlights swept across the street. A black sedan slowed, then idled at the curb. The crowd stiffened. Phones lifted. Voices whispered. "It's him. That's the cop." The driver's door opened. Kincaid stepped out, his uniform crisp, his sunglasses reflecting the neon signs from the coffee shop across the street. He stood there for a moment, letting the tension thicken. Then he stepped toward the gym. The crowd erupted. Boos, shouts, chants of "Respect! Respect!" The noise swelled, drowning the evening air. Maya stepped outside, Malik at her side. Her palms were open, steady, visible, just as she'd taught. "Kincaid," she said, her voice calm but strong. "You don't belong here." He smirked. "You think a crowd protects you? You think cameras make you strong? Weak is still weak." Phones recorded every word. The crowd roared back. "She's strong, she stood, respect." Kincaid's face flushed. He stepped closer, pointing a finger inches from her chest. "You embarrassed me. You humiliated this department. Tonight you answer for that." Maya didn't flinch. "I don't answer to you. I answer to the truth." The crowd erupted in cheers. Ruiz pushed through the crowd, badge visible, phone recording. "Step back, Sergeant," she barked, her voice firm. "You're off duty. This is harassment." Kincaid turned on her, eyes burning. "Traitor, you'll go down with her." Ruiz didn't budge. "Not tonight. Not ever." The standoff hung like a knife in the air. Kincaid's fists clenched, his body vibrating with rage. For a split second, he looked ready to lunge. But then the chants rose louder, a wave crashing through the block. "Respect! Respect! Respect!" The sound rattled windows, shook the air. Phones captured everything, angles from every side. Kincaid froze. For the first time, his authority meant nothing. Every move he made would be seen, judged, replayed forever. He spat at the ground, growled, "This isn't over," and stalked back to his car. The sedan peeled away, tires screeching. The crowd exploded, cheers, applause, chants echoing down the street. Maya lowered her palms, her chest rising with steady breath. Malik hugged her tight, whispering, "You stood tall again. You didn't break." Ruiz stepped up, eyes shining. "You won more than a fight tonight. You won back respect for everyone watching." Maya exhaled, finally allowing herself to feel the tremor in her hands. She looked at the crowd, at the phones, at the faces chanting her name. "I didn't win," she said softly. "We did." That night, as she walked home with Malik and Ruiz at her side, Maya realized the truth. The fight wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every voice that refused to be silenced, every person who stood against fear. And for the first time, She believed it fully. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And tonight, we earned it together. The next morning, headlines screamed across every platform. Crowd confronts officer after viral assault. Maya Carter stands tall again. Clips of the standoff replayed non-stop. Kincaid pointing his finger, Maya's calm palms raised, the crowd chanting respect until his retreat. At Forge and Flow, students filed in buzzing with energy. Parents shook Maya's hand as if she were a public official. "Thank you," one said firmly, "for standing up, not just for yourself, but for all of us." Maya smiled, but her stomach churned. The attention wasn't what she wanted. She only wanted safety. Still, she knew she couldn't step back now. The city had made her a symbol. Across town, Kincaid sat at his kitchen table, the blinds drawn, the glow of his laptop illuminating his face. Every replay of the crowd chanting, "Respect," felt like a blade twisting in his chest. He slammed the laptop shut, muttering, "They think she won. They think she's strong. They've forgotten who I am." His notebook lay open, filled with angry scrawls, humiliation, weak, revenge. Each word underlined, circled, etched like wounds. At the precinct, whispers about him grew louder. Officers huddled in corners. "IA's coming for him. He's finished. Can't believe Ruiz stood up to him like that." Ruiz walked past, shoulders stiff. She could feel their eyes, hear the word traitor hissed low, but she didn't flinch. Her phone buzzed with another threat. "Blue wall breaker, you'll regret this." She exhaled, clenched her jaw and pressed forward. By afternoon, protests erupted downtown. Hundreds marched with signs, "Respect not fear, justice for Maya, turn on the cameras." News drones hovered overhead, capturing chants that echoed through the streets. Maya watched from her living room, Malik beside her. His eyes gleamed with pride. "You see that? You started this." Maya shook her head. "I didn't start anything, I just didn't fall." Malik smiled. "That's all it takes sometimes." That evening, Forge and Flow was packed to the walls. Students drilled harder than ever, each stance snapping sharper, each block echoing louder. Maya's voice carried steady across the mats. "Control isn't weakness, calm isn't surrender. Strength is how you carry yourself when the world tries to shake you." Parents clapped at the end of class, students hugged her, some with tears in their eyes. One whispered, "You make us believe we're not weak." Maya's chest tightened. She bowed low, whispering back, "You never were." Meanwhile, in a dim corner of a bar, Kincaid hunched over a glass of whiskey. Two loyalists sat across from him, shifting uncomfortably. "You gotta stop, Sarge," one muttered. "The whole city's watching. You can't touch her now." Kincaid's eyes burned. "You think a crowd saves her? You think chants make her untouchable? She embarrassed me. She took everything. That doesn't go unanswered." The other loyalist leaned in. "Then what's the plan?" Kincaid's lips curled. "She's not strong. She just thinks she is. Everyone slips. When she does, I'll be there." Late that night, Ruiz parked outside Forge and Flow, keeping watch from her cruiser. She texted Maya, "I'm nearby. He's still angry. Don't let your guard down." Minutes later, Maya opened the back door of the gym, waving her over. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Ruiz shook her head. "Neither should he, but we both know he will be." They stood in silence for a moment, the city's hum filling the space between them. Finally, Ruiz said, "You've given people hope. Don't let him take it back." Maya swallowed hard, whispering, "Hope feels heavy." Ruiz managed a small smile. "So does armor." By midnight, social media pulsed with footage of rallies outside the precinct. "Respect" echoed from block to block. Hashtags trended across the country. Celebrities and politicians weighed in, some praising Maya's composure, others demanding Kincaid's resignation. But in the shadows of his living room, Kincaid paced like a caged animal. His pride had curdled into obsession, and obsession had only one destination. He scribbled in his notebook again. Next move. Soon. Back at her apartment, Maya couldn't sleep. She sat at the window, Malik dozing on the couch, Ruiz's cruiser parked outside like a silent sentinel. She whispered to herself the mantra she drilled into her students. Inhale, exhale, own the ground you stand on. For the first time, she wasn't sure if the ground beneath her would hold, but she knew one thing for certain. The fight wasn't over, and when it came, she would stand. By Wednesday, Atlanta felt like two different cities. In one, people marched with signs and chanted Maya's name. In the other, whispers grew darker. Posts online twisted her into a villain. Every TV screen carried her face, sometimes framed by praise, sometimes by scorn. Maya Carter sat in the back office of Forge and Flow, the blinds drawn, scrolling through her phone with Malik pacing nearby. Headlines glared back: the woman who flipped a cop, strength or disrespect, hero or threat. Malik threw his hands up. They can't even agree you're human. To them, you're either a saint or a menace. Maya set the phone down, rubbing her temples. I never wanted to be either. But you are, Malik said, whether you wanted it or not. That afternoon, Forge and Flow overflowed. Women came from neighborhoods miles away. Parents begged to sign their daughters up. The air buzzed with energy, but Maya felt the weight behind every pair of eyes watching her. She lined the students up. Tonight we practice calm defense. Remember, control first, escape second. Violence is the last option. As she demonstrated, one girl whispered to another, "That's the move from the video." The words made Maya's stomach twist. She wanted them to see discipline, not spectacle. Still, she carried herself with steady composure. Outside, a local reporter stood among the crowd of supporters. Her microphone pointed at the chants. Respect, respect. Here in Midtown, Maya Carter has become more than a woman. She's become a movement, the reporter narrated. But with praise comes backlash, and not everyone is celebrating. The camera panned to a counter-protester across the street holding a sign that read, "She's no hero." Police cruisers idled nearby, their presence only deepening the tension. At the precinct, Ruiz sat in a cramped conference room, her body stiff in the hard chair. Internal affairs investigators grilled her again. Why did you contradict your sergeant? Did you have personal motives? Are you aware of the pressure this has put on the department? Ruiz answered each question evenly, her jaw set. I told the truth. That's my motive. But as she left, she caught sight of Kincaid down the hall, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, eyes like fire. He didn't say a word, but his glare promised enough. That night, Kincaid sat in his car outside a closed strip mall, the glow of his dashboard illuminating his notebook. He scrawled with jagged lines. Crowd, cameras, blind spot. His pride had curdled into obsession, and obsession into planning. He whispered through gritted teeth, "They think she's strong. I'll remind them who's in control." Back at Forge and Flow, Malik bolted the doors after the last student left. He turned to Maya, his face tense. Sis, we need protection. Real protection. Not just cameras and crowds. Maya shook her head. If we turn this into a fortress, it'll feel like Fear won. I won't live in fear. Malik exhaled sharply. You're not afraid enough. That's what scares me. Later, Ruiz knocked quietly at the gym's back door. Maya let her in, surprised. You shouldn't be here. He'll know. Ruiz's expression was grim. He already knows. He's been watching you, and now he's watching me. Maya swallowed hard. Then why risk it? Because silence is how he wins, Ruiz said. Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. I won't let him bury the truth. For a moment, they stood in silence. Two women from different worlds, bound by the same threat. By midnight, social media burned with new footage. Protesters outside the precinct chanted louder than ever. Clips of Maya teaching young girls self-defense flooded timelines. But in the darker corners of the internet, threats multiplied. Posts called for putting her in her place. Memes mocked her sweep as a cheap trick. The divide sharpened. Maya sat by the window of her apartment, Malik asleep on the couch, Ruiz parked outside in her cruiser. She whispered her mantra into the quiet night. Inhale, exhale. Own the ground you stand on. She wasn't sure if the ground beneath her was stable anymore, but she knew she couldn't step away. Not now. Across the city, Kincaid scribbled 3 words in his notebook, underlined until the paper tore. Tomorrow, at night. Thursday dawned with a strange stillness. Even the usual midtown traffic felt muted, like the city was holding its breath. Maya Carter sat at the kitchen table with Malik, scrolling through her phone. The hashtags were louder than ever. Respect. Not fear. #she stood strong. #justice for Maya. Malik shook his head, setting his phone down. It's not just Atlanta anymore. People in New York, LA, even overseas are marching with your name on signs. You've become a global headline. Maya rubbed her temples. I never wanted this. I just wanted to walk home without being grabbed. Malik leaned forward. And because you didn't bow, people saw something bigger. That's not on you, it's on what you represent. At Forge and Flow, classes were busier than ever. Students drilled in tight rows, their movements sharp, their voices strong. Maya walked the line, adjusting stances, correcting grips. Center low, palms open. Breathe before you move. But beneath her steady tone, unease gnawed at her. Every creak of the door, every flicker of headlights outside made her heart race. She knew the message in the envelope hadn't been idle. During a break, one mother whispered, "We heard he was circling again last night." Maya forced a calm smile. "Then we'll stay ready. Fear doesn't live here." The words sounded strong, but her stomach clenched. At the precinct, Ruiz sat at her desk, exhaustion heavy in her shoulders. Her phone buzzed with another anonymous message. "You're next." She closed her eyes, steadying her breath. When she opened them, she saw Kincaid across the hall, watching her with a smirk. Her blood chilled. She typed a quick text to Maya. "He's circling closer. Don't be alone tonight." That evening, the sidewalks outside Forge and Flow filled with supporters again. Signs waved, chants rose, "Respect! Respect!" News crews filmed the crowd, their cameras catching every flicker of tension. Inside, Malik checked the locks twice. "This feels different tonight," he muttered. Maya pulled her hoodie tighter, standing by the window. "Because it is. He's pushing for something. I can feel it." At 8 p.m., a black sedan slowed near the curb. The crowd stiffened. Phones lifted instantly. "That's him," someone whispered. The car idled, headlights burning through the dusk. Then, slowly it rolled forward again, disappearing around the corner. Maya exhaled, but the knot in her chest tightened. "He's testing us. He's looking for an opening." Across town, Kincaid sat in the driver's seat, gripping the wheel until his knuckles whitened. His notebook lay open, the page scrawled with angry lines. "Crowd, cameras, wait," he muttered. "Soon. They can't guard her forever." Back at the gym, Ruiz slipped in through the back door, plain clothes but her badge clipped visibly to her waistband. Malik's eyes widened. "You again?" Ruiz nodded. "He's not thinking rationally anymore. I don't trust him, and I don't want you unprotected." Maya gave her a tired smile. "You know this makes you a target too." Ruiz shrugged. "I already am. Might as well stand where it matters." By 9 p.m., the crowd outside had grown larger, chants echoing down the block. Maya stepped to the door, palms raised high, addressing them the way she did her students. "Strength isn't about shouting," she said. "It's about standing. Tonight, we stand together." The crowd cheered, their voices rolling like thunder. Malik's chest swelled with pride. Ruiz's eyes softened. But as Maya spoke, she caught movement at the edge of the crowd. Two men in plain clothes, phones out but their stares sharp, lingering too long. They slipped away before anyone else noticed. Her pulse quickened. She whispered to herself, "Inhale, exhale. Own the ground you stand on." Around midnight, the crowd thinned. Supporters drifted home, news vans pulled away. Malik bolted the doors again. Ruiz stayed, sipping cold coffee at the back table. Maya sat cross-legged on the mat, the silence heavy. "It's coming soon. I can feel it." Ruiz set her cup down. "Then we meet it head-on, together." Maya closed her eyes, breathing steady. For a moment, she saw herself back in that instant on the sidewalk. Kincaid's grip, her pivot, his fall. That wasn't an accident. It was proof. Proof that strength didn't come from rage. It came from control. Across the city, Kincaid parked under a flickering street lamp, flipping open his notebook. He scribbled the words, "Tomorrow night, no more waiting." His pride had curdled into a plan, and Maya knew in her gut, the final confrontation was no longer a question of if, it was only when. Friday morning, Maya Carter woke to a wall of notifications. Videos of last night's crowd outside Forge and Flow had gone viral. The chants of "respect, respect" thundered through every feed. Commentators called it a movement. Politicians tweeted their support. Even celebrities posted clips of her standing calm at the doorway, palms raised like a shield. But one message cut sharper than all the praise, a single text from an unknown number. "Tomorrow night, you won't be standing." Her chest tightened. Malik read it over her shoulder and cursed. "It's him. He's setting the date." Maya whispered, almost to herself, "Then tomorrow night I'll be ready." At the precinct, Kincaid slammed his locker, the sound echoing through the hall. His reputation was in tatters, IA breathing down his neck, Ruiz's testimony painting him into a corner. Every whisper from fellow officers felt like mockery. "Did you see the clip?" She had him stumbling. "Guy's finished." Kincaid's jaw clenched. He stormed past Ruiz, shoulder-checking her. "You'll regret betraying me," he spat. Ruiz didn't blink. "I regret nothing." But inside, her pulse raced. That afternoon, Forge and Flow overflowed again. Students packed the mats, supporters crowded the lobby, and cameras lined the sidewalks. The gym had become more than a training hall. It was the beating heart of a movement. Maya moved among her students, adjusting grips, steadying shoulders. "Control, not chaos," she repeated like a mantra. "Calm, not fear." One teenager looked up at her. "Miss Maya, what if he comes back?" Maya crouched to meet her eyes. "Then we show him what strength really means. Together." The words steadied the room, but when she stood, she felt the weight of them press down on her shoulders like stone. Outside, reporters swarmed. "Maya, do you feel safe? Are police protecting you? Do you think he'll strike again?" Maya lifted her chin. "Safety isn't given, it's built. And tonight, this community showed me we can build it together." The crowd erupted in cheers. But beneath the noise, she saw two men across the street watching without joining in. Their eyes tracked her every move. When she looked back, they were gone. That evening, Ruiz slipped quietly into the gym, plain clothes but her badge clipped visibly. Malik raised his brows. "Still sticking around?" Ruiz nodded. "He's planning something. I can feel it, and I won't let him take her down alone." Maya smiled faintly. "Then we stand together." For the first time, Ruiz let herself smile back. Across town, Kincaid sat hunched over his notebook in a dingy bar. He scribbled furiously, "Tomorrow, blind spot, no cameras." His glass sat untouched, his food cold. His obsession burned hotter than hunger. One of his loyalists leaned over. "Sarge, you're playing with fire. The whole city's watching her." Kincaid's eyes glowed with rage. "Then let them watch. When I'm finished, they'll remember who was strong and who was weak." The man swallowed hard, saying nothing. By nightfall, protests surged outside the precinct. Hundreds marched with candles, chanting Maya's name. Signs read, "Respect not fear and strength is standing." The city echoed with their voices. Maya watched footage on her phone, sitting cross-legged on the gym mat after class. Malik slumped beside her, exhausted. Ruiz leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes scanning the street outside. Malik muttered, "This feels like the calm before a storm." Maya nodded slowly. "Because it is." At midnight, a car slowed outside Forge and Flow. The engine idled, headlights burning through the dark. The crowd outside stiffened, phones rising. "It's him," someone whispered. The car lingered. Then suddenly it drove off, tires screeching as it disappeared into the night. The crowd murmured, restless, uneasy. Maya stood at the doorway, palms raised, her breath steady. "He's testing us," she said softly. "But tomorrow, the test ends." Across the city, Kincaid parked under a flickering streetlight, notebook open on the dash. He scrawled one final line, pressing the pen so hard it tore the page. "Tomorrow night, final." Maya couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, Malik dozing on the couch, Ruiz's cruiser parked outside. The city hummed with tension, the air thick with expectation. She whispered her mantra into the quiet. "Inhale, exhale, own the ground you stand on." Tomorrow, she knew the ground would shake, but tomorrow she would not fall. Saturday evening draped Atlanta in a tense stillness. The air was heavy, as if the entire city sensed what was coming. Maya Carter sat cross-legged on the dojo mat at Forge and Flow, her students gone for the day, the echoes of their practice still lingering in the air. Malik paced near the window, glancing out at the gathering crowd. Supporters, reporters, neighbors, they'd all shown up again, drawn by whispers that tonight would be the night. Maya tied her guy belt tighter, grounding herself. "It feels like the world's watching," she murmured. Malik shot her a look. "Because it is." He pointed at the protesters chanting on the sidewalk, their signs glowing under street lamps. "Respect not fear, strength is standing." At the precinct, Kincaid shoved his locker shut and stormed toward the exit. Ruiz, standing in the hall, blocked his path. "Where are you going, Sarge?" His smirk was sharp and venomous. "Out, to finish what should have been finished weeks ago." "You're off duty," Ruiz snapped. "You go near her, you'll bury yourself." He leaned in close, his breath hot. "Better buried than forgotten." Ruiz's gut twisted. She knew she couldn't stop him with words. She grabbed her phone and fired off a quick message to Maya. "He's coming. Be ready." Back at Forge and Flow, Maya's phone buzzed. She read Ruiz's warning, her heart pounding, but her face remained calm. She handed the phone to Malik. "It's time." Malik clenched his fists. "Then we meet him head on." By 8 p.m., the street outside the gym swelled with people. Protesters chanted, reporters jostled for position, cameras rolled live. The energy vibrated in the humid night air, a mixture of hope and dread. Then the crowd shifted. A black sedan turned the corner slowly, headlights cutting through the chanting voices. The noise faltered for a moment as everyone recognized it. "It's him," someone whispered. Phones lifted instantly. The car idled at the curb. The driver's door swung open. Kincaid stepped out, his uniform immaculate, his sunglasses reflecting the neon glow of the coffee shop sign across the street. The crowd erupted in boos. "Respect! Respect!" Chants thundered louder, but Kincaid just smiled coldly. Maya stepped to the doorway, Malik on one side, Ruiz, who had arrived breathless moments earlier, on the other. Her palms lifted, steady and open, visible to every camera. "Kincaid," she called, her voice calm but sharp. "You've made your choice. Tonight, so have we." He smirked, stepping closer. "You think a crowd makes you safe? You think chants make you strong? Weak is still weak." The words echoed, venom laced with pride, but the crowd roared back, drowning him out. "She's strong! Respect! Respect!" Kincaid's jaw tightened. He jabbed a finger at Maya, his face twisted with rage. "You embarrassed me! You turned the city against me! Tonight I take back what you stole." Maya didn't flinch. "Respect isn't stolen, it's earned, and you've lost it." The crowd exploded in cheers. Suddenly, Kincaid lunged forward, his hand shooting for her arm just as he had weeks ago. The crowd screamed. Phones zoomed in, but Maya was ready. Her body flowed like water, pivoting off the line, her palm guiding his momentum. She reaped his leg clean, sending him sprawling to the pavement exactly as before, but this time in front of hundreds of witnesses. The crowd gasped, then erupted into thunderous chants. "Respect! Respect! Respect!" Kincaid scrambled to his knees, face purple with humiliation. "She attacked me! She assaulted an officer!" he barked, spittle flying. But Ruiz stepped forward, badge raised, phone recording. "No, the cameras saw it. We all saw it. She defended herself, again." Phones angled toward Kincaid. Reporters shouted questions. The chant surged louder. His words were drowned by truth. Maya stepped back, palms raised high. Her voice carried over the roar. "I don't want to fight, I never did. But I will not be weak, and neither will anyone who stands here tonight." The crowd erupted, their voices rolling down the street like thunder. Police sirens wailed in the distance, command units arriving. Kincaid staggered to his feet, chest heaving, his pride shattered before the world. Officers surrounded him, guiding him back toward the car. His eyes locked on Maya, burning with fury, but powerless now. The captain stepped out of the SUV, scanning the scene, phones raised, chants echoing. Kincaid disheveled, Maya calm with palms lifted. His face hardened. "Sergeant Kincaid, you're relieved of duty pending investigation." The crowd roared. "Respect! Respect!" Malik hugged Maya tight, whispering in her ear. "You stood tall again. You didn't break." Ruiz, eyes glistening, placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. "You didn't just stand for yourself. You stood for all of us." Maya exhaled, her body trembling but her voice steady. "We stood together. That's why we're still standing." That night, as the crowd dispersed, the chants still echoed through the streets. Maya walked home between Malik and Ruiz, her palms finally dropping to her sides. She whispered her mantra once more. Inhale, exhale, own the ground you stand on. And for the first time, she felt the ground was steady. Not just under her feet, but under everyone who had stood beside her. By Sunday morning, the city felt different. Newspapers hit doorsteps with bold headlines. Sergeant Kincaid relieved of duty after confrontation, and respect movement erupts after dojo standoff. Clips of Maya's sweep and Kincaid sprawling onto the pavement replayed on national broadcasts. Commentators dissected every frame. The calm in her stance, the fury in his lunge, the roar of the crowd chanting, "Respect!" At Forge and Flow, Maya sat cross-legged on the mats, scrolling through her phone. Supporters flooded her inbox with messages of thanks. Parents begged for class openings. Activists asked her to speak at rallies. Malik leaned against the wall, shaking his head with awe. "Sis, You realize you've gone from a neighborhood instructor to a national headline in 2 weeks? Maya exhaled. I never asked for that. Malik smiled. Symbols don't get to ask, they just become. At the precinct, Kincaid sat alone in a conference room, the blinds drawn. His uniform jacket hung over the chair, his badge on the table. IA investigators grilled him for hours. Why was your body cam off? Why did you approach her while off duty? Do you understand the optics of your actions? He answered with clipped words, defiance in his voice. She humiliated me. She assaulted me twice. You're letting a crowd decide the truth. One investigator tapped the stack of USB drives on the table. No, Sergeant, the cameras decided. Kincaid's fists tightened. For the first time, he had no reply. Meanwhile, Ruiz filed her own report, standing tall despite the glares of colleagues. She defended herself, she repeated firmly. He escalated. The crowd, the footage, my own body cam, they all prove it. One officer muttered as she passed, traitor. Ruiz ignored it. She had chosen her side, and there was no going back. Outside, the protests swelled. Streets filled with marchers chanting, respect not fear, and justice for Maya. Banners hung from balconies. Hashtags trended worldwide. News anchors framed it as more than one incident. This isn't just about Maya Carter, one said. This is about accountability, dignity, and the meaning of respect. Another commentator added, she showed strength without violence. That's why people are rallying. Back at the gym, Maya addressed her evening class. The mats were full, the walls lined with parents and supporters. Cameras peeked through the windows. Tonight, she said, her voice steady, we practice the basics, not because they're simple, but because they are the foundation. Balance, breath, control. These are what kept me safe. These are what will keep you safe. As she moved through the drills, she caught the eyes of her students, shining with determination. She realized they weren't just copying her movements, they were carrying her message. Later that night, Malik scrolled through social media, showing her clips from marches in other cities. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, even London. Crowds holding signs. She stood, we stand. Maya sank into the couch, overwhelmed. This is too big. I'm not ready for this. Ruiz, sitting at the table, shook her head. You're already doing it. You didn't ask to lead, but you did the one thing leaders do. You stood when it mattered. Maya closed her eyes, whispering her mantra. Inhale, exhale, own the ground you stand on. For the first time, she realized the ground she stood on wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to everyone chanting outside. Across town, Kincaid sat in his darkened living room, television replaying his fall on loop. Each replay was another knife. His phone buzzed with texts from old colleagues, some mocking, some pitying. He hurled it against the wall, shattering it. His pride was gone. His badge was gone. His voice was gone. All that remained was the silence of defeat. He muttered into the empty room, they'll forget her. They always forget. But deep down, he knew they wouldn't. That midnight, Maya stood at her window, watching supporters outside hold candles, their chants softer but just as steady. Respect. Respect. Malik joined her, draping an arm over her shoulder. You hear that? That's not just noise. That's history. Maya exhaled, tears stinging her eyes. She whispered to the night, respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And for the first time, she believed those words weren't just hers. They belonged to everyone who had stood beside her. By Monday morning, Maya Carter's name was no longer just a headline, it was a movement. National papers carried her photo, palms raised in calm defiance. News broadcasts showed endless loops of her sweep, of Kincaid hitting the pavement, of the crowd chanting respect. Forge and flow overflowed. The mats couldn't hold all the students, so Maya moved classes into the parking lot. Parents lined the sidewalks, supporters brought water, volunteers directed traffic. Every time she demonstrated a stance, dozens of phones recorded it, spreading her words instantly across the internet. Strength isn't about violence, she told them. It's about balance. It's about control. The crowd repeated the words back to her like a pledge. Inside, Malik scrolled through his phone, eyes wide. Sis, look at this. Marches in Boston, Seattle, even Paris. People chanting your name on 3 different continents. Maya wiped sweat from her brow, watching the students bow off the mats. This is getting too big. What if I can't live up to it? Malik grinned. You already did. The night you didn't fall. At the precinct, the fallout deepened. Kincaid's badge was suspended, his gun confiscated. He stormed through the halls, officers parting like water in front of him. His pride had curdled into venom, every whisper a dagger. They're making her a saint. IA's got him pinned. Should have walked away. Ruiz walked past, chin high, though her hands trembled. Kincaid's glare burned into her back. You think you won? He hissed. This isn't over. She turned, meeting his eyes with steel. It is for you. But her stomach twisted as she walked away. Men like him rarely let go. That night, protests filled Centennial Park. Thousands carried candles, their glow painting the skyline gold. The chants rolled like waves. Respect, respect, respect. On stage, speakers invoked Maya's name as a symbol of dignity, of calm strength in the face of rage. Maya watched the live stream from her couch, Malik and Ruiz on either side. She pressed her palms together, overwhelmed. They're chanting for me, she whispered. Ruiz shook her head. Not just for you, for what you showed them. You turned one moment into a mirror, and people finally saw themselves standing. Meanwhile, in a dim motel room outside the city, Kincaid sat hunched over the glow of his laptop. News anchors dissected his downfall. Online forums mocked his stumble. He scrawled in his notebook the words jagged and dark, weak, fraud, revenge. His pride had become poison, and poison only spreads. Back at Forge and Flow, Maya finished another class. As students rolled up mats, a young girl lingered behind. Miss Maya? She asked timidly. Yes? My mom says you're a hero. But do heroes get scared? Maya knelt, her eyes soft. All the time. Being scared doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. What makes you strong is standing anyway. The girl nodded, her smile small but steady. Maya's heart ached. The weight of those words felt heavier than any kata she'd ever practiced. Later that evening, Malik found her sitting alone in the darkened gym. You're carrying too much, he said gently. Maya rubbed her temples. They look at me like I'm unshakable, but every night I shake. Malik sat beside her. Then let them see that too. Strength isn't never shaking. It's standing even when you do. She leaned against him, whispering, Respect isn't demanded. It's earned. And you earned it, Malik said firmly. Across town, Ruiz sat in her apartment staring at her badge on the table. Messages still pinged her phone. Threats, slurs, betrayals from fellow officers. But then she scrolled to another video. Maya on the dojo floor, guiding a line of students through their stances, the crowd chanting behind her. Ruiz whispered to herself, If she can stand, so can I. For the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of peace. By midnight, Maya stood at her window, watching supporters outside hold another candlelight vigil. The chants were softer now, steady and sure. Respect. Respect. She pressed her palm against the glass, whispering, This is bigger than me. And she knew. Being a symbol wasn't about being perfect. It was about standing again and again, no matter how heavy the weight became. By midweek, Maya Carter's life was no longer her own. National networks called non-stop. Invitations poured in from universities, activist groups, even late-night shows. Forge and Flow was drowning in reporters who camped outside the door from dawn to dusk. Malik scrolled through his phone, wide-eyed. Sis, you've been invited to speak at the rally in D.C. this weekend. Tens of thousands will be there. They want you front and center. Maya exhaled slowly, her palms pressed together. I'm a martial arts instructor, not a politician. You're more than that now, Malik said. People see you as proof that dignity can stand against rage. Maya's chest tightened. She hadn't chosen this spotlight, but she also couldn't deny the chant that echoed through every protest. Respect, respect. At the precinct, Ruiz faced her own storm. Officers ignored her in the halls, muttered insults as she passed, and slammed doors in her face. She swallowed the sting of isolation, telling herself she had chosen truth over silence. In the captain's office, she gave another statement to Internal Affairs. Yes, I testified. Yes, I stand by it. He grabbed her. She defended herself. Twice. One investigator nodded. You realize your career may never recover. Ruiz's jaw tightened. Some things are worth more than a career. But when she left the office, she felt the weight of every glare. She whispered to herself, If she can stand, so can I. Meanwhile, in a motel room on the outskirts of the city, Kincaid paced like a caged animal. The news ran loops of Maya teaching self-defense to crowds in the parking lot. Every clip showed her calm, composed, while the crowd roared her name. His notebook lay open, pages filled with jagged scribbles. "Weak, fraud, take her down." He snarled, "They made her a saint, they forgot me, but they'll remember when she falls." His obsession hardened into resolve. He sketched out details, locations, blind spots, exits. He didn't just want to confront her anymore. He wanted to destroy the symbol she'd become. Back at Forge and Flow, Maya finished another overflowing class. Supporters clapped as she bowed. Children ran up to hug her, parents thanked her with tears in their eyes. But when the last student left, Maya sank onto the mat, exhausted. Malik sat beside her. "You're shaking," he said softly. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Every time I stand at that door, I wonder if tonight's the night he comes back." Malik put an arm around her. "Then we stand anyway. Because if you fall, everyone who believed in you falls too." Maya whispered her mantra. Inhale. Exhale. Own the ground you stand on. Her hands still trembled, but her voice steadied. That night, Ruiz stopped by the gym in plain clothes, eyes wary. "IA's closing in on him," she told Maya. "But that makes him more dangerous. He has nothing left to lose." Maya nodded. "I know." Ruiz hesitated, then said quietly, "He's been asking about blind spots, places without cameras. If he comes, he'll try where the world isn't watching." Malik cursed under his breath. "Then we don't give him that chance." By Friday, the DC rally loomed. Organizers called again, urging Maya to speak. Malik encouraged her to go. Ruiz offered to escort. The pressure mounted until she finally whispered, "If I go, it's not about me, it's about the message." That night, she stood before a crowd outside Forge and Flow, palms raised. "I never asked to be in this fight," she said, her voice carrying over the chants. "But respect doesn't belong to one person, it belongs to all of us, and no matter how loud fear shouts, we will stand together." The crowd erupted, chanting her name. Across town, Kincaid watched the live stream on a cracked laptop, his face twisted in fury. He slammed it shut, whispering through clenched teeth, "Tomorrow, she won't make it to DC." His plan was set. That night, Maya sat at her window, watching supporters with candles outside the gym. Malik dozed on the couch. Ruiz kept watch in her cruiser. The chants of respect, respect, rolled through the night like waves. Maya whispered to herself, "This is bigger than me. Tomorrow I stand for them all." But deep in her chest, fear coiled tight, because she knew tomorrow wasn't just another rally. Tomorrow was the showdown Kincaid had been waiting for. Saturday dawned with restless energy. Atlanta buzzed like a city preparing for a storm. The DC rally was only hours away, and Maya Carter's name topped every headline. Her face filled morning broadcasts. Anchors speculated whether she would appear, what she would say, and how the nation would respond. Forge and Flow was already surrounded when she arrived. Supporters held signs, reporters crowded the sidewalks, and students waved at her through the windows. Maya bowed to them before unlocking the door. Inside, Malik and Ruiz were waiting. "You ready?" Malik asked, his duffel packed with water bottles and first aid supplies. Maya exhaled. "I don't know, but I'll stand anyway." Ruiz adjusted the strap of her bag, eyes sharp. "We'll keep you safe, but remember, Kincaid knows this is his last chance. Don't underestimate him." Maya nodded. The knot in her chest tightened. Across town, in a dingy motel, Kincaid laced his boots with deliberate precision. His uniform hung in the closet, untouched. He no longer needed it. Pride was all he carried now, and pride had rotted into rage. His notebook lay open on the bed. The words, "Tonight, no cameras, final," scrawled across the page. He muttered, "They'll see. They'll all see." By afternoon, the rally in Washington swelled to tens of thousands. Drone footage showed crowds waving signs. "Respect, not fear. She stood. We stand. Justice now." The organizers confirmed Maya's slot on the main stage. Social media lit up with anticipation. In the dojo, Malik scrolled through live streams. "Sis, they're waiting for you. Millions of eyes. You walk on that stage, you cement history." Maya sat cross-legged on the mat, her palms open in her lap. "History feels heavy." Ruiz knelt across from her. "Symbols always carry weight, but you're not carrying it alone. Every one of those chants, every candle, every sign, they're carrying it with you." Maya inhaled slowly. whispering her mantra. Inhale. Exhale. Own the ground you stand on. By sunset, the convoy was ready. A bus idled outside the dojo, organized by supporters to take Maya and a small group to the airport. Crowds lined the sidewalks, chanting her name. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Maya stepped out, Malik at her side, Ruiz close behind. She raised her palms, steady, calm. The crowd roared, "Respect! Respect!" But as she reached the bus, her gaze flicked across the street. A black sedan idled in the shadows. Her breath caught. She knew that car. "Malik," she whispered. He followed her gaze, jaw tightening. "It's him." Kincaid stepped out slowly, his figure framed in the glow of street lamps. No sunglasses this time, just raw fury etched across his face. The crowd gasped, phones rising instantly. "It's him!" voices shouted. Ruiz pulled her badge, stepping forward. "Kincaid, you're out of line. Leave now," he sneered. "You think cameras protect her? You think chants make her safe? Weak is still weak." The crowd roared back louder. "Respect, respect, respect!" The chant shook the block. Kincaid lunged forward, pushing through the sea of phones. His hand shot for Maya's arm, the same way it had weeks before. But Maya pivoted. Calm. Fluid. She redirected his momentum with a sweep, guiding him to the pavement once again. His body hit the ground with a thud that echoed like a verdict. The crowd erupted in cheers, louder than ever. "Respect! Respect!" Ruiz stepped forward, cuffs in hand. "Sergeant Kincaid, you're under arrest for harassment, assault, and violation of suspension orders." Phones zoomed in. Cameras flashed. His humiliation was complete. Kincaid thrashed on the ground, spitting venom. "She's nothing! She's weak! You'll see!" But his words were drowned out by the roar of the crowd. "Respect! Respect! Respect!" Malik pulled Maya into a tight hug, his voice thick. "You did it again! You stood tall!" Maya's palms trembled, but she lifted them high to the crowd, her voice steady. "This was never about me. It's about us. About standing together. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned." The chant swelled, rolling down the street like thunder. By midnight, footage of the confrontation had gone viral worldwide. Clips showed Kincaid lunging, Maya sweeping him, Ruiz snapping the cuffs. Hashtags trended across continents. In D.C., organizers announced that Maya's speech would headline the rally the next day. "She showed the world what standing strong looks like," one speaker declared. Maya sat in her apartment, Malik asleep on the couch, Ruiz at the table writing her report. She stared out the window at the candlelight vigil glowing on the street. She whispered her mantra softly. Inhale. Exhale. Own the ground you stand on. Tomorrow, that ground would be a stage. Tomorrow, the whole world would be watching. Sunday afternoon, the National Mall in Washington, D.C. overflowed with people. Tens of thousands filled the open space, signs waving like banners in the wind. "Respect not fear," she stood, "we stand, justice now." News drones hovered overhead, capturing the ocean of faces, the chant of respect, respect, rolling like thunder through the Capitol. Backstage, Maya Carter stood in her G-jacket, palms pressed together, heart pounding. Malik squeezed her shoulder. "This is it, sis. The whole country's waiting." Ruiz, standing nearby in plain clothes, offered a small nod. "Remember, you already proved your strength. This is just the echo." Maya inhaled, exhaled, whispered her mantra. Own the ground you stand on. When she stepped out, the roar shook the earth. The stage lights hit her face, cameras from every angle broadcasting live. She lifted her palms, steady and open. The crowd quieted, waiting. "I never asked for this," she began, her voice carrying strong and clear. "I never wanted to be a headline. I'm just a woman who wanted to walk home without being grabbed. But when I stood, you stood with me. And together, we showed that strength isn't loud. It's steady. Respect isn't demanded. It's earned." The crowd erupted. Chants of respect. Respect. Rolling like waves. Maya waited for silence before continuing. "They called me weak. But weakness isn't standing still. Weakness is using fear to control others. True strength is standing even when your knees shake, even when your voice trembles, even when the world tells you to sit down." The chant surged again, echoing across the mall. At that moment, screens around the rally lit with breaking news. Former Sergeant Kincaid officially dismissed, facing charges. Footage of him being cuffed outside Forge and Flow played across giant displays. The crowd roared in approval, the chant of respect, shaking the Capitol. Maya exhaled deeply. The weight she had carried for weeks seemed to ease, not gone, but shared. In the front rows, young girls held signs with her name. Mothers lifted their daughters onto their shoulders. Maya saw their faces, eyes wide, smiles bright, and her voice caught for a moment. I taught self-defense because I wanted women to feel safe, she continued. But safety isn't just about locks or laws, it's about respect. And respect belongs to everyone, on every street, in every community, in every heart. The crowd rose to its feet, the chant of respect, rolling like thunderclaps. Ruiz watched from the side of the stage, tears stinging her eyes. She thought of the slurs, the isolation, the threats. But in this moment, surrounded by tens of thousands, she felt her choice vindicated. She whispered to herself, "She stood. So did I." Malik stood tall, pride swelling in his chest. His sister had become more than a teacher, more than a fighter. She had become a voice for everyone who had ever been told they were weak. As Maya closed her speech, she lifted her palms once more. Tonight we stand together. Tomorrow we stand again. Respect isn't a chant, it's a choice, and we will keep choosing it until every person in every place can stand without fear. The roar that followed shook them all. Cameras zoomed in on her face, calm, steady, unbroken. That night, coverage blanketed the nation. Headlines read, Maya Carter delivers powerful speech at DC rally. Respect movement sweeps the nation. Cop dismissed, symbol rises. Her words replayed on every channel, her calm stance compared to historical moments of defiance. At Forge and Flow, students gathered to watch the broadcast. When Maya's image appeared on the screen, they clapped, some with tears streaming down their cheeks. One whispered, "She made us believe we're not weak." Across the city, Kincaid sat in a holding cell, his notebook confiscated, his pride stripped bare. The chants of respect echoed faintly from the television outside. For the first time, he realized he had been silenced not by force, but by truth. Back home, Maya stood by her window, watching supporters with candles outside her building. Malik leaned against the wall, grinning. "You changed the world, sis." Maya shook her head softly. "No, we changed it. Together." Ruiz stepped forward, her voice steady. "And we'll keep standing, no matter what comes." Maya pressed her palms to the glass, whispering her mantra one last time. Inhale, exhale, own the ground you stand on. This time the ground beneath her felt unshakable. The story of Maya Carter closed not with silence, but with a chant that spread from Atlanta to the world. Respect, respect, respect. Justice had found its voice, and it would not be silenced again.